Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And this is the daily financial news for Friday, December 9th. And these are the 5 things that I think you need to know about. First, on Friday, folks, we got the PPI report. Kind of a mixed bag. 1 second. I'm fighting a sneeze. Oh. Again, back to PPI. Came in at 7.4, so the downward trajectory is still intact. Expectations, however, were for a month-on-month going up 0.2, went up 0.3. Really interesting to see gasoline roll over while food went up. They actually canceled each other out in the headline number. Energy was down 3.3 and food was up 3.3. One of the things, again, in the number that you will be aware of, given that you follow this channel, is services. Right? It appears that goods inflation is rolling over. Remember, we've talked about this before. Goods inflation, rough and tough's about 30, I think it's about 32% of our economy stuff, where services is 68% of our economy. And services inflation really picked up, came in at 0.4. So again, kind of a mixed bag. The downward trajectory is intact, but maybe not falling as fast as people would like. So that's number one. Number two, we have to talk about Ken McElroy. Ken McElroy on Friday, or at least that's when I saw it on Friday, released a video called Pencils Down. A couple of you asked for my feedback on that. And basically what I took from that video is, frankly, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect, but if you watch this channel, you would have seen things in that video that Ken said to do today that you and I talked about 6, 9, 12 months ago. To see Ken talk about these things like, hey, start doing them now is concerning. I would argue it's late. And where were you 6 months ago when you were saying the market was still strong? So what do I mean by that? First and foremost, Ken, right early in the video, talked about multifamily being down 20%. This is something I talked a lot about on my channel, that cap rates were going to go up, rents were going to soften, and NOIs. It was just going to be all kinds of bad. It is also where I see lots and lots of pain. Ken, you know this, I'm sure, but a lot of your peers repeated the mistakes of the housing crisis. Short-term debt, interest only, horrible assumptions. And unfortunately, Ken and his ilk, not really Ken, I shouldn't say Ken, newer syndicators got addicted to easy money, didn't realize that they got lucky with timing, and now they're about to lose a lot of equity. And when a syndicator loses equity, they don't lose anything. It's all their limited partners. They may lose a little bit, but not very much. So again, I think Ken talking about multifamily being down 20%, disappointing. He's kind of talking about the actual, where on this channel we took a shot and pointed at it was coming. The second thing Ken talked about that really shook me was raise cash. If you've been watching this channel, you know myself and many of my millionaire real estate investors that come to you 5 days a week. We've been doing that for 9 to 12 months. I'm, in fact, already deploying cash. If you watch my channel over the last 6 weeks, you know we've closed 2 deals right out of the MLS. One of them is about to be flipped and listed on Tuesday. Might be Wednesday. We're shooting for Tuesday. You can go through. We see the walkthrough videos. I hide nothing. Don't edit anything. Just see the raw stuff. I will absolutely share the numbers once they're all done. But again, this is a time to write disrespectful offers. This is not the time to retreat. This is a time to get aggressive. In residential, when 87% of the people run away, I run in. So, yeah. And then, so that's my kind of feedback. Ken's late. It's nice to be validated. I will admit to be validated. That's kind of cool. Number 3 thing to know, Bank of America, 0 down, 0 closing costs, no PMI. I say those words and I get a little chill. This is very much kind of the last 18 months, 16 months of the great run. This is a pilot program being done in LA, Dallas, Detroit, and Charlotte. Again, 0 down, 0 closing costs, no PMI, and I forgot to say, no minimum credit score. Yeah, that ought to be interesting. A couple things about interest rates that I thought were interesting. We have some forecasts. This is a big thing. You've heard me talk about March 15th being kind of the pivot, the spring selling season. Yahoo Finance forecast interest rates next year potentially going from 5.2 to 8%. That is quite a range. Quite a range. Realtor.com, 7.4%. Seems high. Freddie Mac, 6.4. Not bad. Goldman Sachs, 6.2. And probably not surprising to you or me, Mortgage Bankers Association kind of painting a vision of 5.2. These are all closing rates at the end of 2023. I'm going to put it out there that we're at like 5.8, 5.9. So kind of between MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, and Goldman. 5.8, 5.9. I'd like to see it have a 5 on it. I do think that changes the game. That ought to be interesting. Mortgage rates, for example, last week, fourth week in a row, down to 6.33%, and I believe going lower. On Friday, we got to talk, Friday, I wanted to talk about what's happening next week. We obviously have CPI, the Fed meeting, and retail sales. More on all of those later. I do think when we talk about the Fed on Wednesday, remember, we've got 3 things to look at. What is the increase? We've been talking about 50 basis points for quite a while, so that should not be a surprise. The dot plot is going to be interesting, right? This is something we get every other meeting. It's basically what are the Fed's expectations? And we're going to be looking at unemployment, peak, right, called terminal rate, speed, and some of you out there are still thinking we're going to have cuts next year. So, and then lastly, GDP, right? Is anybody forecasting a recession? So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Last thing to kind of talk about on Friday, we did get some earnings. Restoration Hardware, kind of high end. They saw their inventory surge and says, they're going to have a difficult time as housing suffers. Lululemon beat top, beat bottom, but talked about weak guidance and inventory building. DocuSign beat top, beat bottom, had better expected renewals. Costco missed revenue, missed earnings. Broadcom, beat top, beat bottom, and actually raised guidance. So a lot of stuff going on last week. I guess the last thing to really talk about, let me see. Yeah, Sam Zell, another multifamily person, talks about a liquidity crisis coming. Odds of a recession very high. We do have to watch the markets, the liquidity drying up. We've seen some of that pain in REITs. We've talked about on this channel a lot, multifamily. So I think there's a lot of pain coming. But of course, with great pain comes great opportunity. Last thing to talk about here is I want to let you know that we finally loaded some more videos from my mastermind. If you are in my course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time, congratulations. You now have sessions from Cody and Christian. 22, I think, and 25. Hundreds of units, all seller financing. They talk about how they did it, how they find sellers. Great session. Thank you, Millennial Mike, for loading. If you want to get a part of this, you can buy the course today. Save yourself some money. It's $319. It will be $399 once all of the sessions are loaded and live. So enjoy, folks. This was Friday, December 9th. Take care. Bye-bye.